Welcome to yet another great episode of Innovation Odyssey. Today, I have with me the fantastic Sri Ramaswamy, who is the founder and CEO at Charlee.ai. Welcome, Sri, to the podcast.
Thank you, Renu, for having me. It's a pleasure that I will be your final one of 2023. So thank you so much.
This podcast has been in the making for a long time. And when we go to the questions, we can see why. But first, I want to start with you. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Sri Ramaswamy, founder and CEO of Charlee.ai, a mother of a son, and I call mother of two, Charlie being my youngest one, and a wife and a daughter. And I've been in the data analytics field for 20 years now, 20 plus years, advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, and data, everything related to data, starting in the banking industry for 5 years and the remaining 15 plus years in the insurance industry.
Do you call the insurance industry your home now?
I guess because I have spent more time. It's like it's the mother that raised me, I guess. And, so you definitely, I definitely feel more attached now than before when I started. And I used to think that, banking and finance was my home. And, today I can say that that's, I think it started there. Definitely the journey started there. The interest started there. The initial knowledge was gained there. But when I moved to the insurance industry is when I really saw the power of data, and because it was not being used much. And that's kind of where it started. And I feel like a lot of opportunities that came my way has been in the insurance industry.
So when you started in banking, were you in the US?
No, actually I was in Australia at that time, and I did my master's in Australia. And after that it was a journey back there, but I landed in the banking industry and I just loved it. Again, it's a trove of data, in the banking, but banking was going through a massive, transformation of being very focused on customer, and they were very customer focused, and everything related to data was all centered around providing that wholesomeness and the 360-degree view of customer, the whole service of customer. Many of the things were going away, like your tellers, bank tellers, and all that was being replaced by technology. And I saw a fair amount of transformation in the banking industry when I started. So it was fascinating, to start there. But I was in Australia at that time, and then I moved to the United States. I got married. I moved here, and I still continue to be in the banking industry um, as a consultant, and continue to do the same work. And it so happened that when I moved to not moved, but when I decided to stay put in one place in San Diego and stop the consulting, um, because my husband had lost his mom, and after 6 months, he was still kind of coping with it. So I felt it was good to kind of be at one place and not travel around too much at that time, just to kind of be with him more, more than I traveled. So my only choice in San Diego, that was closest to the financial services industry, was insurance. That's how I got into insurance.
So why didn't you look at banking in San Diego? Because there wasn't enough opportunities?
There weren't enough opportunities, at least, with what I wanted to do. And so it was like I still wanted to be in the whole data transformation and data analysis, advanced analytics space, more so in the advanced analytics space. And I think, most of the opportunities was, at that time was more in San Francisco area, or upper north or other areas. Not so much. I won't say there weren't any, but at least not that, they wanted me, I guess. But it was more about, the opportunities didn't match.
So, did you get the chance to work with an insurance carrier?
Yes, I started working at an insurance carrier. It was a work comp focused, but they also had acquired the non-standard auto company. And they were bleeding quite a bit of money on that space at that time. And but the interesting fact was they were also going through a huge transformation. So it was interesting because of that. They completely moved. They were moving away from the green screens. My first project with data related was in the using the IBM mainframe system. And it was like fascinating to me because I had not seen that um, from my banking days when everything was replaced. That was the time I saw it. So to see something like that again here, and not being through that, gone through that once, and now again coming back to it, felt like deja vu.
Exactly.
Oh, it seems like I came back to the same train.
I think that's good. It's opportunities, huh? You can
It
take.
definitely. I didn't see it that way though. When I landed in that job, within 1 week, I think within like 3 days, 4 days, I went to my manager and I told her, I don't think I'm going to be here for more than a week. And, she was like smiling away and she said, Shri, you love data, right? I said, yeah, I do. And she said, you're going to be here for a long time. I thought she was, I thought she didn't, I just thought, okay, she doesn't know me. And, she's just saying this, but I was quite sure I wouldn't make it past 1 week. I was very sure about that. But, I think she was absolutely 100% right. And I guess she knew me more than I did.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm very sure that the insurance industry is thankful that you stayed around and you made Charlie.ai. What does Charlie.ai do?
So Charlie.ai is our patented advanced AI solution for insurance claims. What we do is we use natural language processing and machine learning to extract deep insights from the unstructured data, whether it's claim notes or claim documents, claim files, third party reports. And all those are risk characteristics and loss characteristics and facts of loss that we pre-train it on. And then we use machine learning to predict litigation, attorney involvement, and severity of claims. We pretty much cover all commercial and personal lines of PNC today. We have pre-trained insights, more than 50,000 plus pre-trained insights today. We have trained it over 55 million claims across. And, it also covers all bodily injury across all lines specifically, and also covers workers' compensation.
Okay, I mean, the BI one is always tricky because in my commercial auto, trying to predict BI, especially considering the litigation trends we see now, it's tough. Actually, I'm very curious. How has Charlie.ai been for commercial auto?
Pretty good. We are getting to about 85% accuracy in our predictions, and we have trained massively a huge ontology of injuries. And that, plus we also have the initially when Charlie.ai started, it started as a fraud platform. And what we did was to embed about 160 plus fraud schemes within that. But the behavioral aspects of how the pattern of the scheme works, so that is what was coded into Charlie, and we using NLP. and using our domain experts. And because of that, we already had the behavioral aspects of the different fraud schemes that exist. That also was covered, within Charlie's NLP trained, models. So along with that, we also now have the vast, really vast ontology of injuries, and we also have a very, I would say, a very deep set of dictionary that can basically understand and interpret all the different facts of loss mentioned in the claim files and the claim documents. So that really helps us understand and correlate, the I would say the probabilities of litigation, the probabilities of attorney involvement, and the severity. We focus very much on severity, and when I say that, it's the reason why we stress that it's severity and we're not predicting settlement is because severity is independent of the judgment, the human judgment of what the claim will actually settle at, because that is something a human only can do. So, whether it is commercial auto, or whether it is a very unique liquor liability, or whether it is GL lines, dealing with, sexual abuse cases or anything like that, the common element is sticking to the facts of loss. And in the bodily injury side of it, understanding what are your injuries. Injury is an injury, whether it is a GL line of business, or whether it happens in a slip and fall in a supermarket, or whether your dog bit you in your home or your somebody else's home, or whether you got injured in an auto accident. It's all the same body, this it's the same body, same injuries. So understanding the injuries is key.
And do you already have metrics that you can share saying, okay, we have an 85% accuracy on an average in predicting something that goes into litigation, and so we've been able to save money? Like, do you have those numbers?
We do. We are now seeing a trend in the metrics. So first is the prediction accuracy. The way we calculate that is by back testing into some of the closed claims, and that's how we look at the precision and recall, information. The That's one way we calculate the accuracy. The other area where we look at the ROI metrics is more around looking at how a customer uses the analytics, or the insights that we provide and the predictions we provide, and how they implement that into their workflows. And after that, how do we measure the impact of that? And usually, we look at we have done, not we, but actually two of our customers have done ROI studies 4 months after Charlie was deployed in their production, and we have seen similar results. One is a tier one, and the other one is a tier two company. And what they did was to focus on low severity predicted claims, and these are typically $0 to $10,000 predicted claims. We predict in ranges, and when you just take that bucket, the low severity predicted claims, and you add the other facts that, okay, you predicted this for 0 to 10, maybe soft tissue injuries, or maybe no injuries or anything like that, like nothing very severe on the body injury side, but also no attorney involvement, specific jurisdiction. So there are certain parameters that you look at. We call this as specific lists that we provide, a prioritized set of lists. And the customers basically take that, implement in their workflows, and what they see is that they've been able to solve those and resolve those claims much faster. And because of that, they have seen like anywhere between 10 to 23% reduction in attorney involvement. And the savings, it's like a varied numbers. but we have seen up to about a 43% reduction in severity for one, and 54% reduction in cycle time. So cycle time, attorney, avoidance, litigation avoidance, and then comes the last comes the severity itself, because that's more, how much you can settle for. But your cycle time goes towards your expenses, reduction in the adjustment expenses, and the cycle time also is correlated with how you can avoid the attorneys and settle your claims and have better control. One of the things that we were not really measuring, but it came out as a hidden benefit, is reserving. And so we saw, both the customers got more diligent with their reserving, managing reserves. Um, and one of them actually said that they almost saw, close to a 1%, efficiency improvement in their reserving, which goes back to your IBNR, and it goes back to other factors. So it was interesting. We never kind of, did it with, we never thought of reserving as one of the ROI metrics. We were only showcasing three financial attributes for ROI measurements, and that is cycle time, loss expenses, and then indemnity. So it turns out that more than indemnity, reserving was one of the biggest benefits that came out of this. So we are seeing consistency now, where it's the predicted claims, not just the low buckets, but also what we call as the medium and high buckets. When you take that set of claims and then you prioritize them based on the fact that there is no attorney involved yet in those claims. And then you start looking at other things. And the most important, the useful thing for them within Charlie is able to provide like a summarized contextual insights. And these are summarized, events that really talk about um, the events that have happened, and they're summarized in a chronological way for you to understand what really went on in the claim. So it summarizes the entire facts of loss. Whether it is like 100 pages, 200 pages, 300 pages, it doesn't matter. It summarizes that. So now your plan of action becomes a lot more easier, and that's what helps with the whole movement of the claim faster through the pipeline.
So this is really generative AI for claims.
It is pretty much, we are generating I would say, a summarized list of events that have happened in the claim in a chronological way. And what we call that as context. It's like it provides the context of the prediction. It tells you all the summary of events that are very important, and all the things that have happened. Some may be inconsistencies, some may be actual injuries, but these are what we call as pre-trained insights. They are pretty much, if you think about it, they're pretty much in the new world called as the prompts for the generative AI. um, but they are pretty much generated in a sequential way to explain the key facts of loss, the key risks within the claim. And that's important for you to be able to put that in your prediction models. That's what we do. We use them in our prediction models, and that's how the accuracy goes up.
I see. And how big is the team that built and patented Charlee.ai?
Oh my God. So we were pretty fortunate in receiving both our first and second patents within 18 months of filing. And, it was fascinating because when we applied for the first one, we never even thought we would get it, because, it was like, hey, I'm sure somebody would have done this. already. But when we got it within 18 months, we're like, really? Like, no one has done this yet. And this was at the time when the term insurtech, when we worked on this, it was, and the insurtech term also was not, very
Popular back
uh,
then.
defined well, at that time. So to us, it was fascinating. We were one of the pioneers in the natural language processing, and even before generative AI became like generative AI and popular, and on everybody's on everybody's mind, what we did was essentially generative AI. We also used the generative AI in pre-training. When we pre-trained, that was the intention, that we don't want to go to every company and take the data, sit there for 6 months and be a project. Really, for us, it was most important for us to go to a customer with those pre-trained risk analysis and the risk insights, and know when we going to their claim and understanding or interpreting the claim, we all already know that if certain attributes are present in your claim and we can extract those, we can also correlate those and know exactly, from a predictive standpoint, how their claims fare. So it was important for us to do that. It's a small team. Going back to your question, just a small team. Only now we are touching about, I guess, 28, 29 people across, both continents. We've got a small team in India. We've got small team in the US. I guess the small team is because we are pre-trained. We don't really have to go and keep developing models when we go to new customers, and which is also why we're able to do our POCs within 21 days and deliver a solid result for people to see. And people are just amazed at how quickly Charlie was able to, interpret, understand, summarize, predict all that.
So ChatGPT, the booming of ChatGPT actually really accelerated what you have been building on for these years.
It definitely accelerated the understanding for insurance carriers, in the sense now they understand. Before, when we used to go to them and say, hey, we do NLP based insights, they would just look at us and like, what are you talking about? And it's like, it's the same thing that your chief claims officer does, or your senior claims person does. Nothing different from that. It's just that we do in large volumes. And so it's, yeah, definitely ChatGPT has accelerated the understanding of NLP, understanding of text based analysis, of understanding what it really means to be able to predict words, based on a set of trained words or trained paragraphs of text. And now they understand, oh yeah, okay, you take. So now it's like people come to us and say, I'm pretty sure you can take my documents. Can you take my documents and read this? Can you take this and read this? So it's like, I don't have to nurture. I don't have to, provide that basic, learning anymore. So I am thrilled at that. But there's also a lot of misconceptions going out there, as to, oh, I don't need to do this. I can just put Chat GPT and it's going to like automatically predict. I'm like, no, you need a Charlie layer. You really need a interpretation layer to be able to understand claims language. Claims is a different language. What ChatGPT does is, it's an English language based, pre-trained models that can predict the next set of keywords or next set of words. That's how, it does it. But it's also publicly trained data, large volumes of data, publicly trained, and it's based on English language. Those are the three things I tell people, that you need to remember, that it's publicly trained data, and it's based on, it predicts a set of keywords. It is based on English language training. So when it comes to Charlie does exactly the same thing, but on claims language. So that's how we got our first and second patent both covers the Charlie language model. We don't call it, it's not a large language model, but it's more a language model for claims.
What is the significance of the name Charlie?
It was just a team effort in finding something. The product was named Charlie, and it was, we were called Infinlytics before, you know that. And back then, our product name was Charlie. It so turned out that when we were trying to rebrand ourselves, because we spent almost 3.5 years training our models, and when we were getting ready to go mainstream, we wanted to create a branding and brand awareness for ourselves. So when we started to kind of look at, okay, how do we rebrand ourselves, because now we're getting into the market, we're no more the searching for early adopters and training and all that stuff. So now we are ready to launch in the mainstream area. When we set out for the journey, the first thing was the name. It was very hard for people to remember Infinlytics and say it properly. And then when we went, did a survey with, all the people that we had worked with, partners, investors, customers, prospects, friends, and everybody could remember the product Charlie, and nobody remembered nobody remembered Infinlytics. So when that happened with prospects, we said, oh, it's fine with customers. They probably signed the contract, they need to know. But when you think about prospects, how they remembered us was Charlie. So, and then one of, I think a couple of our advisors on the board, they said, why don't you just name it Charlie.ai? We were looking for a different name. And they said, why different name? Why don't you just name it Charlie.ai? You are an AI company and it makes more sense. So, it was a no brainer. It was right in front of us. We didn't see it. I didn't see it. And, these are things that as you grow in your business, you tend to kind of understand at some point that the answers are right there, in front of you. You just didn't see it. There has to come a time when all that has to align, I guess.
Yeah, I am with you on that. And now stepping away from Charlie.ai a bit, I always like to ask my guests the question of, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur or an innovator?
I think more an innovator, more so an innovator. I mean, I don't know if they're independent of each other. I think they are probably more so, the entrepreneur needs to have that innovator spirit. And the innovator may or may not need so much of the entrepreneur attitude, maybe. I don't know. But the way I look at it is, I'm my hands always itch to innovate, services, and innovate product, innovate process. So because I feel it's the most logical thing in the world is change. It's the most constant thing also is change. So as an innovator, all you're doing is just enabling change. In a you're enabling change in a very, I would say, consistent manner. And it's and in a very seamless way. If you can enable change in a seamless way for a group of people, and that benefits a group of people, I think you are a good innovator. And I like to see myself like that, but I don't know if I do it well. But I definitely like to see myself like that. I think an entrepreneur has to find more than that. It's a more responsible title, I guess, because it goes much beyond just enabling change. It is also, now about bringing teams together. I see more innovator as being more. So I guess both. I don't know. I think both, because entrepreneur needs to kind of bring to fruition what an innovator does. And it's not easy. Again, you need to put teams together, you need to bring the right people together, and you not only need to convince yourself that this is the vision, but you need to convince the world that here is a vision. And yes, by enabling this change, now you can repeat it as well and be profitable in it and do it multiple times. So I think you need to have a bit of both. And I think it's my story is I like a bit of both.
That's fair enough. And you're also a female founder.
Yes,
And there are not many of us around who do these things.
I know. I and it's a it's a mixed feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a mixed feeling, not because I'm a female entrepreneur, but also because you've got so many roles packed in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're a mother, you're a daughter, it's you're a wife, you're many people look up to you, actually. It's as a female entrepreneur, who's there, who's striving, who's going through all the different difficulties, of treading this entrepreneurial journey. It's hard. It's hard enough to do that, and it's hard enough to kind of um, be in the insurance space and do it. And now you add the third element. I don't know which one is first or which one is third, but the element of being amongst the minority, the group. So the mixed feeling also is about, hey, let's put that aside for a minute and let's just think about it as an entrepreneur. And that's what I do. The day I kind of put that aside and I said, I'm not going to look at it from that lens. I'm just going to say it's the same struggle that probably every entrepreneur goes through. And you know so nowadays I tend to look at it that way. And it is hard as such for any entrepreneur out there.
Yeah, I have the same struggles that you. We know that they have these biases exist, because if they didn't, we would have all had funding earlier, bigger. It's not that we didn't try, but then we have to be able to deal with it without it getting us down, right? And I really want to help, or we do these things so that the next generation of female or diverse entrepreneurs won't have to fight these battles.
Absolutely. In the sense you stated it correctly. It's like for the next generation of diverse entrepreneurs, it's very important for them to see the dream and not really get caught up with these differences, because understand that only 1% of people are funded, 1% of companies are funded, and only 10% of companies make it out there, and many remain as small businesses. you know it's only the top 1% that make it really big. And I don't think people should be put down or discouraged by that. It's okay to be in the 9%. It's okay to be in the outside of the 10%, also, because it doesn't mean that your second venture is not going to make it into that 10%. So I think we need to kind of show these lessons that it's okay. It happens. It has happened before. And failure does not mean that you're not a good entrepreneur. It's because there's a whole set of conditions that have to work in conjunction with each other to make that product, to make the final result happen. So, and even after you will see that even after people have gotten massive amounts of funding, they failed. So I don't think we should look at funding as the ultimate success criteria. And as you rightly pointed out, just by getting up there and doing this, and telling people that it's okay, you fall, you stand again and get back on track, will provide, I think, huge amount of encouragement and lessons to the next generation. At least, I hope, Renu, for us, when people look at you and I, and all the others that we have come to know in this journey, that would be one takeaway for our next generation, is that don't give up. The different lessons out here to learn, and you don't have to repeat the same thing to learn that. You have now, we're in that sense, we are like the first timers in this. We face things that we never even, nobody ever told us.
Yes. Yes.
It's not in that chasm book also.
Yep.
The chasm book talks about, like crossing the chasm talks about, the struggles that every entrepreneur goes through. But now you've got a set of uh, minority group, and their struggles are real, their struggles are unique, and I don't think anybody has written a book on it.
Well, maybe it is. We should attempt it.
I know. I know, it's like a collection of things that we've all gone through, and hopefully, that becomes like the next crossing the chasm, for a minority group founder. It's a the struggles are real. The struggles are real. It doesn't come easy.
Do you think that if you didn't, travel from India to Australia, Australia to US, you would have been a different person, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Oh, absolutely. I think every country actually, the I would say, given my situation, given my life story, and these each of these journeys, from India, within India, and from India to Australia, and within Australia, and then from Australia to US, and then within US, like each of these places, the journey and the destination themselves had immense amount of impact, on my life. And I think it's because of the journey, the place I came from, and who I was and what I became. It's definitely, all the three places have huge impacts, and it's the I guess the opportunities that were presented to me shaped who I became and what I took out of that. The failures equally, and not just the opportunities, more so the failures, more than the opportunities. So I don't, I don't like to say failures. I think they're all learnings. And if I'm so blessed for those learnings, and I'm also blessed for people around me that, that lifted me up every time I would fall, and in some way or the other, not like directly, not sometimes directly, handing their hand or something, to for you to get up, but in some way or the other, I was lifted, um, and I was open to it. So it was interesting journey, interesting set of people. What really shaped me was the resilience that I built, the perseverance that I built, and the resilience that I can now have 10 skins on my body, and tread through these rough waters. That's what I think each of these places taught me.
I think we have been blessed, or maybe it's written, that we had to do traverse these continents to get to where we were. I think it's really fascinating. There are not many people who do these things, and I think we've been able to make the best out of that. And just like you were lifted, I promise you, you lift as well.
I hope so. That's my this one, that it's all about giving back, here, giving back here, and giving back in the way that you can. And like, interestingly, when you asked me that question, it didn't actually strike me, but I do want to say this, that my entrepreneurial journey started in India, actually. And I think I've told this story many times. I was the first one to bring microwave, to India, and that was my first, I would say entrepreneurial journey there, because I was working for Samsung, at that time, and in India. And then in Australia, when I was actually studying, the bug bit me again, where I really wanted to. I was working for a small takeout, Indian takeout place. And I almost felt like they did something unique. Like one of the unique products was a chicken tikka roll, the naan rolls, and they were not very famous back then, and now it is, I guess. Like the falafel rolls, you have these, they had these rolls that was very fascinating to me. And I really didn't think that they did a good job in, they were a small mom and pop shop in a small, strip, not even strip, a food court in a railway station. So, and there were many, around them, different kinds of foods. I almost thought that, these small places also can have a brand. So I started a small company there for branding. And basically, I brought in, like, a logo, concept of a logo, concept of, everybody having like a uniform, and and showcasing your brochure matching the decor of the place. So people have to remember, when they look at the brochure, they remember the shop. So, and then, not many items, but really talking about the chicken tikka roll, about the story, of how they came up with the roll and what goes into it. And, and then in a small place, you have the menu, and then, people could just come there. And then again, going back to data, I actually did collect a lot of the train timings, the schedules of when the trains would arrive. So you need to have people at that time, um, to hand over these roles, and you can sell them, like that. So the place really did well, and I was very glad to do that. And then we really got a large order for another company, and at that is the time I decided to sell it. So it paid my tuition fee. It was good experience, and I really learned the key thing in business is to have trustworthy people. And that's what I walked away from that experience. And then I came to the US, and this is my third entrepreneurial journey, I guess, in that sense, in a different continent each time.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love having you on my show. It's so inspirational for me. And, I think entrepreneurs feed off each other's energies for sure. So
Yes.
maybe as a last question, you mentioned you have a son. What would you like him to be?
Whatever he wants to be,
Hmm.
but just be good at it and make some money.
There we go. Yeah. That is, I think, a very good wish for our
Yeah.
next generation.
I definitely think, he needs to be in the STEM area. I am very encouraging of that, irrespective of what he ends up doing. Ultimately, with it, I'm telling him technology and science, and I'm a big proponent of science and math. And I've volunteered at schools. I've brought in programs, competitive math exams to schools. To I used to do volunteering work at his school, both in his elementary and middle school. We used to have science programs, so I was a volunteer for that as well. And and I think that spirit of math and science is something that we instilled in him. And I told him, you got to have the basics have to be very strong in your math and science. Your foundation has to be very strong, irrespective of what you do with it. And tomorrow you may become a chef, but don't think that chefs don't need science. Absolutely, they need. If food is science, you need to know about that too. So it just becomes more. exploratory, and you can explore many different fields that today are converging, and they're all converging, to I would say at least two or three converge, and they merge. And so I definitely in the STEM area, hopefully he will make a career out of it. And he's been part of Charlie's journey right from the beginning. Actually, the first logo was designed by him. The bot that you see was also designed initially by him, and then we kind of remade that. He's part of our patent, one of the new ones that is coming up. He's part of that. He's been doing research on that. So he's been a part of this. He's just been a very quiet part of it. Now, he's 15. He's going to come more into the picture.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait. I can't wait for your success and your continued success, if I may say, and for him to be the best version of him.
Thank you so much. And, I wish you the same. I've learned a lot. That energy is contagious. Definitely. Yeah, I definitely have learned a lot from you as well. I miss our Hartford times, definitely.
Well, the world is a small place. I'm sure our paths will cross, and longer, maybe.
Hopefully. I'm praying for that.
Thank you very much for being a guest.
Thank you, Renu, for having me. This was fun.